In the grand, austere hall of the United Nations headquarters, transformed for the occasion with holographic emblems of the Galactic Federation floating serenely above the assembly, Sarah Chin found herself at the epicenter of interstellar politics. As Earth's diplomat, she was accustomed to high stakes, but today, the air crackled with a peculiar tension, an undercurrent of something monumental. Sarah adjusted the interface on her tablet, reviewing her notes one last time. Across the room, she caught the steely gaze of Zorblat, the Regalian delegate, his skin shimmering with a metallic hue that marked his prestigious lineage. His stare was calculating, as if he was mentally rehearsing the coup he was about to attempt. As the gavel struck, silence enveloped the room. The chairman of the Federation, a venerable Altarian with a voice both sonorous and soothing, began the session. Esteemed delegates, we are gathered here to deliberate the future role of our newest member, Earth. Zorblat rose, his height imposing, his voice resonant. Honorable Chairman, fellow delegates. He started, his tone deceptively congenial. I propose that we consider the protective governance of Earth by the Regalian Empire. It is in the best interest of the galaxy to ensure that Earth progresses under guided supervision. A murmur swept through the chamber. Sarah felt a chill. This was it, the veiled threat she had been warned about. She leaned forward, her mind racing. This was not mere oversight Zorblat was proposing, but a polite term for domination. I urge my fellow delegates to consider the precedent we set today, Sarah interjected, standing swiftly. Her voice was calm, her presence commanding. Earth is capable of self-governance. We seek cooperation, not overseers. Zorblat smiled thinly. Diplomat Chen, while your planet has shown remarkable progress, the complexities of galactic integration are vast. Wouldn't you agree that experienced guidance could prevent undesirable outcomes? His insinuation hung heavily in the air. Sarah knew this game. He was sowing doubt among the delegates. She needed to turn the tide. With all due respect, Delegate Zorblat, Earth has managed its affairs through crises that would have fragmented lesser civilizations. We are here to stand as equals, not as subordinates. Her rebuttal drew nods from some quarters of the room, murmurs of approval that buoyed her spirits. The chairman intervened. Let us proceed with decorum. We will hear more on this matter. Delegate Chen, please prepare your formal response for tomorrow's session. As the meeting adjourned, Sarah's allies converged around her, their expressions a mix of concern and admiration. You handled that well, murmured a delegate from Cygnus, his feathery brows furrowed. Zorblat is playing a dangerous game. Be ready. The rest of the day was a blur of strategy meetings and impromptu discussions. In the dim light of a service corridor, Sarah met with her closest advisors, their faces lit by the soft glow of data pads. Zorblat's proposal is a power play, pure and simple, said General Maddock, Earth's military attaché. He wants to set a precedent. Today Earth, tomorrow another emerging world. Sarah nodded, her mind whirring with tactics and counterpoints. We need a counteroffer that appeals to the Federation's ideals. We must emphasize mutual benefit, interdependence rather than dependence. As night fell over New York, Sarah sat alone in her office, the city's lights a sprawling lattice below. Her thoughts drifted to her early days in diplomacy, to the lessons learned in far-flung outposts and shadowy negotiation rooms. Those experiences had honed her, prepared her for this moment. Her communicator beeped, a message from an anonymous source. Trust no one. Not all allies speak the truth. Sarah stared at the screen, her resolve hardening. This was more than a debate. It was a battle for Earth's future. The hours passed as she drafted her speech, each word weighed for impact, each sentence designed to resonate with Federation values. When she finally leaned back, the first light of dawn was creeping across the sky. Tomorrow, she would stand for Earth, not just as a diplomat, but as a defender of her planet's right to self-determination. The stage was set, the players ready, and Sarah Chin was not out of her mind. She was right where she needed to be, at the heart of the galaxy's greatest debate. As the morning light flooded the conference room, Sarah Chin navigated the clusters of delegates with a practiced eye, her mind sharply tuned to the day's crucial agenda. garnering support against the Regalian proposal. The overnight hours spent refining her speech had sharpened her resolve, but the real work, persuading her interstellar counterparts, loomed large. Her first encounter was with Ambassador Tyrrell from Vulcanus, a planet known for its inhabitants' analytical minds and detached demeanor. Tyrrell's tall, slender frame was a stark contrast to the more robust forms of other delegates, and his cool, measured voice carried a hint of intrigue. "Ambassador Tyrrell, may I have a moment?" Sarah began, matching his formal tone. "Diplomat Chin, your actions yesterday were noted for their fervor. How may Vulcanus assist you today?" Tyrrell's eyes, a deep shade of emerald, scrutinized her carefully. Sarah chose her words deliberately. "Your wisdom is respected, Ambassador. I seek your counsel and hopefully your support. Earth champions autonomy, much like Vulcanus once did. Your endorsement could sway others." Tyrrell paused, considering. "Your position is precarious, Diplomat Chin. Vulcanus values logic above all. Present a logical argument in today's session, and you will have our ear." Encouraged yet cautious, Sarah moved on, her senses alert. The buzzing atmosphere of the summit served as a backdrop to the intricate dance of diplomacy she was orchestrating. Each interaction was a step towards building a coalition, each conversation a thread in the larger tapestry of galactic relations. Her next strategic stop was the delegation from Aquaria, a water-bound planet whose support could be pivotal. Delegate Enter was less reserved than Tyrrell, his glistening, scale-covered skin catching the light as he greeted Sarah with a warm smile. "Delegate Enter, it's a pleasure to see you again. May we discuss the proposal on the floor?" Sarah's approach was direct, her tone friendly yet earnest. "Ah, Earth's fiery diplomat. We've heard Rigel's ambitions might dampen your spirits. How does Earth plan to keep dry?" Enter's humor was not lost on Sarah. Aquarians loved their water puns. "We plan to swim, not sink, Enter. And allies make for a stronger current." Her reply drew a chuckle from him, breaking the ice further. "Straight to the point, I like that. Aquaria values freedom, Sarah. We'll stand with you if your speech resonates with our principles." His nod was all the encouragement she needed. As the morning progressed, Sarah wove through the crowd, speaking with as many delegates as possible. Her diplomatic acumen allowed her to adapt her appeals to the diverse values and interests of each, highlighting Earth's potential contributions to the Federation's goals. Lunch brought an informal gathering, a chance to foster a more personal connection with the delegates. In the lush gardens of the UN building, amidst exotic flora from 100 worlds, Sarah found herself sharing a table with a group from the Meccano Federation, beings who valued efficiency and technological advancement. "Your proposal implies a partnership that could innovate galactic governance, not just for Earth but for all of us," Sarah pitched, her voice laced with conviction as she addressed the group. "A sound infrastructure is the backbone of any civilization. How do you propose Earth contributes to this, Diplomat Chen?" queried one of the mechanical beings, its voice a symphony of harmonious tones. "By sharing innovations and fostering a tech exchange program. We are young in the Federation, but our technological strides are significant. Let's leverage this for mutual progress," Sarah explained, tapping into their core interests. The afternoon was a blur of similar exchanges, each delegate presenting a unique puzzle to solve, each conversation a step closer to securing the necessary votes. Her feet ached from pacing the corridors of power, but her spirit soared with each tentative promise of support. As the sun began to dip below the Manhattan skyline, casting long shadows over the assembly, Sarah retreated to a quiet corner of the gardens. She needed a moment to gather her thoughts and prepare for the final push in tomorrow's session. Her communicator buzzed with an incoming message from General Maddock. "Good progress, Sarah. But watch your back. Not everyone speaks in the daylight." Her eyes narrowed at the message. Trust was a luxury she could not afford, not when Earth's fate hung in the balance. She stowed the device, her gaze settling on the horizon. Tomorrow, she would not just speak for Earth. She would echo the collective voices of her newfound allies, each one resonating with the desire for a future where every planet had a voice. Tonight, she would refine her speech, infusing it with the collective aspirations of her supporters. The words needed to be more than persuasive, they had to inspire, to ignite a vision of a federation that valued each member's sovereignty as its strength. Tomorrow, she would stand at the podium not just as Earth's representative but as a harbinger of unity. As the stars began to pepper the twilight sky, Sarah felt a quiet confidence settle in. Her network of alliances was woven. Now, it was time to see if it would hold. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Federation Summit hummed with anticipation. Delegates from across the known universe sat in circular tiers, their collective presence a tangible weight pressing upon the room. Today, decisions would be made, alliances tested, and Earth's fate determined. Sarah Chin took a steadying breath, her hands gripping the polished podium as the chairman signaled for order. Zorblat sat to the right, his metallic blue skin reflecting the room's ambient glow. He was relaxed, confident. His proposal was already in motion, and in his mind, it was only a matter of time before Earth was absorbed under the Regalian banner. His expression barely concealed the satisfaction of a predator awaiting the inevitable collapse of its prey. "Delegate Zorblat, you may proceed with your case," the chairman announced. Zorblat rose, adjusting his regal cuffs, his voice flowing smoothly. "Honorable delegates, the proposal I presented is not one of dominance, but of progress. Earth's entry into the Federation, while notable, presents unique risks. Its volatile history, its untested position in interstellar governance, all raise concerns." He let the words settle before delivering his calculated blow. A structured, guided transition under the Regalian Empire would ensure stability while protecting the Federation's interests. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some nodded in agreement, others exchanged wary glances. The weight of his words was undeniable. Sarah had expected as much. The chairman turned toward her. "Delegate Chin, you may present your rebuttal." Sarah stood, meeting the gaze of each delegate as she took the podium. "Esteemed representatives, I appreciate the concerns raised by Delegate Zorblat. However, his proposal, however finely polished, undermines the core tenets of this federation." Her voice carried across the chamber, unwavering. "Earth does not seek protection. We seek partnership." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to land before pressing forward. "Yes, we are a young member, but do not mistake youth for weakness. Our history is not one of fragility, but of resilience. Every crisis we have faced, we have overcome. Not because of external governance, but because of our ability to adapt, to grow, to stand on our own." Several delegates leaned forward, intrigued. She had their attention. Sarah turned her focus toward a section of the room where the Meccano delegation Saturday. "We have already made strides in technology, sharing innovations that benefit not just Earth, but the Federation as a whole." She motioned toward the Aquarian representatives. "We have extended our hands in diplomatic exchange, forging mutual understanding with species whose worlds are vastly different from our own." She let her voice rise, controlled but firm. "This is what the Federation stands for, not conquest, not control, but cooperation." Her eyes swept the room. "I present an alternative. Instead of Regalian oversight, let Earth establish a direct alliance program with select Federation worlds, partnerships that will allow us to integrate responsibly, while ensuring our autonomy remains intact." Zorblat scoffed, rising before she had finished. "A noble sentiment, but wishful thinking. Cooperation requires oversight. Without structure, Earth risks being a liability rather than an asset." He turned toward the assembly. "Are we to risk instability simply because of their pride?" Sarah met his gaze, unflinching. "Delegate Zorblat speaks of stability, but what he offers is control. He calls it protection, but what he seeks is dominion. And if Earth falls under Regalian rule today, which world will be next?" The room tensed. She had struck a nerve. Tvrel, the Vulcanus ambassador, stood. "Delegate Chin raises a valid point. The Federation is founded on principles of autonomy and collective progress. To deny Earth that right would contradict our very mission." Enter from Aquaria followed. "Agreed. Earth has already demonstrated its commitment to cooperation. Forced governance is unnecessary." Zorblat's confidence faltered, his jaw tightening as voices of agreement began to spread. He turned toward the chairman. This is reckless sentimentality. The Federation cannot afford. The Federation cannot afford to betray its own values. Sarah interrupted smoothly, her voice calm but edged with steel. We choose the harder path, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Earth does not need to be ruled. We need the chance to prove our worth. The chairman surveyed the room, the murmurs of deliberation filling the air. He struck his gavel once. A vote will be called. Delegates, you will decide whether Earth remains independent or falls under Regalian oversight. Sarah exhaled slowly, stepping back as the digital vote commenced. Her heart pounded, but she kept her expression neutral. Zorblat remained still, unreadable, though his fingers curled slightly against the table. The results appeared on the central hologram. A moment of silence stretched before the numbers solidified. Earth's independence upheld. A wave of applause erupted from sections of the room. Sarah allowed herself a small smile, nodding toward her allies. The battle had been won, not through force, but through conviction. Zorblat rose stiffly, his expression unreadable. An unfortunate decision. But history has a way of proving inevitabilities. With that, he turned and strode from the chamber. Sarah exhaled, shoulders easing. Today, Earth had secured its place. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. The moment the vote was finalized, the chambers shifted from tension to a wave of quiet murmurs. Delegates exchanged glances, some relieved, others calculating. Sarah Chin remained at the podium, her posture composed, though the adrenaline still coursed through her veins. She had done it. Earth's sovereignty had been upheld. But the battle was far from over. Zorblat, his expression unreadable, stood slowly, adjusting the folds of his ceremonial attire. A regrettable outcome, he said, his voice clipped but controlled. The Regalian Empire only sought what was best for the Federation. I fear your optimism will soon be tested, Delegate Chin. He inclined his head slightly, then strode toward the exit, his entourage following without a word. Sarah let him leave without response. His parting words were not a threat, but a warning. She knew Zorblat. He was not the type to accept defeat without a contingency plan. But that was tomorrow's problem. Today, Earth had held its ground. The chairman's gavel struck once, calling the chamber to attention. With the matter settled, this summit is adjourned. Let this be a reminder that the Federation is built on unity and principle. His gaze lingered on Sarah before he stood, signaling the end of proceedings. As the delegates began dispersing, Sarah exhaled, finally allowing herself a moment to process. A few approached her. Ambassador Terrell offered a measured nod of approval, while Enter from Aquaria clapped her on the back with a grin. A battle well fought, Chin. You've made allies today. Sarah smiled. And we'll need them. Terrell's cool gaze studied her. Zorblat will not forget this loss. I don't expect him to, Sarah admitted. Which is why we have to move fast. Earth has secured its independence, but now we need to prove we can hold our own. The diplomatic reception hall was a contrast to the tense summit chamber, a place where delegates gathered to unwind, discuss agreements in more informal settings, and in some cases, forge silent alliances over shared drinks. Sarah accepted a glass of Earth whiskey from an aide and took a measured sip, allowing herself a brief moment of victory. General Maddock, standing near the observation window, gestured for her to join him. The New York skyline stretched beyond the transparent walls, a testament to human ingenuity. You did good today, Sarah. She smirked. Coming from you, that's practically a standing ovation. Maddock exhaled, watching the city below. Zorblat underestimated you. He thought you'd crumble under pressure. He doesn't understand humans, she said simply. Maddock turned to her, raising an eyebrow. And the rest of the Federation? They're starting to, Sarah replied. But understanding isn't enough. We need to act. If we want Earth to be more than just another member world, we have to contribute in ways that matter. The general nodded. That counteroffer you pitched, alliances with other Federation worlds, that's not just diplomacy. That's strategy. It's survival, Sarah corrected. The only way to keep Earth safe is to make ourselves indispensable. As she spoke, her communicator buzzed. A coded message flickered onto the small screen. Unverified intelligence suggests Regalian movements in unclaimed space. Possible retaliatory maneuver. Stay alert. Sarah's stomach tightened. It had barely been an hour since the vote, and already the next game had begun. She glanced at Maddox, who had also seen the message. His expression hardened. They won't risk open conflict. Not after today. No, Sarah agreed. But that doesn't mean they won't try something else. She drained the last of her whiskey, setting the glass down with deliberate finality. We need to get ahead of this. Earth won today, but we can't afford to let our guard down. Maddox smirked. I had a feeling you'd say that. He clapped her shoulder. Get some rest, Shin. Tomorrow's a new fight. Sarah nodded, but new rest wouldn't come easily. As she looked out over the city, she felt the weight of what had been accomplished, and the gravity of what was still to come. Earth had secured its independence. Now, it was time to prove it deserved it.